Right, well, I figured it was probably around about the right time to sort of share with everybody the recent experience that we've had at the Hong Kong Visa Centre with the 100% SME Loan Guarantee Scheme. Funding that's available under arrangements which the Hong Kong government have put into play to help SMEs essentially access working capital so that they can fund themselves and trade their way out of the difficulties brought about by the riots last year and COVID this year. So in April, the government announced the details of the scheme, and towards the end of April, actually April 24th, we submitted an application to HSBC under the 100% SME Loan Guarantee Scheme funding application procedures. And when you look at the paperwork, you'll see that there are two ways to apply. You can either apply under what's known as the MPF plus tenancy agreement route, or you can apply under the proxy method of assessment route. Now, we elected to go for the proxy method of assessment because the Hong Kong Visa Centre has a very typical, well-entrenched, long-established connection economy enterprise. We engage all of our team on the strength of contracts. They are contractors to us, they're not employees. And the route number one under the program that we applied under was to essentially take all of the details of your employees as reflected in your MPF records, together with the tenancy agreement and the funds that you pay for your rent under a stamped tenancy agreement. You take those two phenomenon, those two numbers, and then you basically add them together, do a multiple, and then you get a quantum that you can borrow from the government supported, borrowed from HSBC, but supported by 100% loan guarantee from the government. That basically means that entrepreneurs don't have to come up as they normally have to do with security for any monies that they borrow from the bank. We applied under the proxy method because we don't have any employees and we don't have an MPF, we don't have a tenancy agreement. What we do is have, as I say, independent contractors, and we have an arrangement with Central, which is a license to occupy co-workspace time gig. So we've never had a stamped tenancy agreement, so we wouldn't qualify under the normal route. So we applied under the proxy route. Then we entered into a sort of a negotiation and an exchange with HSBC to ultimately define what, or settle on the definition of what monthly net income means, because this program was cobbled together at the very last minute, and as an alternate way to understanding what the quantum could be to borrow under this program, assuming that you don't have any employees and you don't have a stamped tenancy agreement. That proxy method is very nebulous in its definition, and so our definition and the definition which HSBC initially came back with were poles apart. Anyway, the upshot is that I made representations in writing to the HSBC. They then had another look at it and came back with a quantum that I was prepared to accept under the 100% scheme, and they came back further very proactively with additional suggestions as to how we might be able to get the totality of the quantum that we need in order to basically get ourselves back to where we were before the riots and then COVID started. So I won't labour too much about that sort of toing and froing, albeit for me to say that I was absolutely left with the impression that HSBC wanted to help and they wanted to play ball, which is, goodness gracious me, you never see, let's face it, bankers are not exactly renowned for being the most understanding of individuals and collectively teams that want to make life easy for entrepreneurs. But I can say, in all honesty, with hand on my heart, HSBC did a really, really, really good job this time. So we put an application on April 24th. There were 2 sets of email exchanges, 2 or 3 conversations with our contact, who's Mr. Isaac Wong from the Causeway Bay branch of the HSBC SME section of their team. And well, yeah, in actual fact, apart from those 2 exchanges, the news came in about 12 days later that essentially we're all good to go. It had to get the final approval from the Government Mortgage Guarantee Trust Court, which is responsible for dispersing the funds of the government and the fiscal affairs of the government vis-a-vis third parties. And then lo and behold, 10 days ago I got a 7 Hong Kong dollar digit in my bank account, which has been manna from heaven, helped us incredibly, as you know, an infusion of cash like that would do for any business that has historically grown and serviced itself, or funded its growth, I should say, and serviced itself out of the revenues that we've earned. And whilst they were unable to give me the complete quantum that we asked for under the 100% loan guarantee scheme, they did proactively come back and suggest that the majority of the balance, not all of it but most of it, could be available to us under the 90% scheme, which is another similar scheme, but it's got another 1 or 2 sort of wrinkles or bells to it. In the final analysis, you know, it's going to cost us a little bit more to split up access to government funding in this fashion, and there are 1 or 2 other wrinkles that could still potentially stand in the way of us actually finalising the second part of the loan. But I haven't really come to talk about that. What I've come to talk about is that finally, after, well, 26, 27 years of banking in Hong Kong, doing business with banks in Hong Kong, for the very first time, yes, for the very first time after all these years, I can report that I've had a really good, positive time with HSBC. I can only recommend them highly. I would go to see Isaac in the Causeway Bay branch. His details will be on screen shortly. And all I can do is to say congratulations, HSBC, certainly in terms of how you've acquitted yourself with the Hong Kong Visa Centre, and me and my business partner Martin, we're really grateful, and you've done a good job, and I can only encourage other SME entrepreneurs to run with HSBC. So